Lionel, is that you?
There, I think I got it. Dave?
Lionel.
Dave.
Lionel.
Hey, Dave, it's Christmas time.
It's Christmas time, and it's always good to hear your voice, my friend.
It's always good to hear the voice of the reassuring voice of Uncle Dave. You're kind of like the Walter Cronkite of model railroading.
Well, those are large shoes, one way or the other.
So long as Uncle Dave's here, we're going to be okay. Now we know Uncle Dave has trouble concentrating, and he's going to be more interested in having a beer. But somehow, when Uncle Dave is here, we're at least going to be able to. We know that we can send Uncle Dave for beer, and he'll come back with beer. Or we can say to Uncle Dave, "Can you just stand here and hold this?" And he can do that without a whole lot of. You can't give him really complicated jobs, but he's a solid extra. He's a solid
extra. There we go.
Yeah.
That's kind of like when I was in my band, I always kind of felt that way too. Like you never wanted me singing leads, but I could sing high harmony pretty well.
What was the deal with the bongos?
The congas.
Congas or whatever. Yeah. Well, they look like bongos.
That's just the really big bongos.
Yeah. I always thought, I'm sorry, I cut you off. I've been getting really bad at that. But I always thought the guy playing those big bongos, the congas, apparently they're called. I always figured the guy that was playing the congas had absolutely no musical talent whatsoever, but he was buddies with everybody in the band.
Well, that's about right. Exactly right. My brother and I used to joke in Strange River that we were going to take creative control of the band. He played cymbal and a snare drum. I played the congas, and Josh did all the writing. So I was going to go on a tambourine solo career.
How did you guys get hooked up with? Like, were these guys desperate to have drinking buddies or what?
Well, we all met in really grade school, and the original grouping was we called ourselves Gordy and Knot, and then the Ridgewoods, just because the Gordy and Knot name was taken, and released a sort of more of a rock and roll plugged in electric album in our college years in the late 90s, called The Ballad of L Valley, L.Valley, just the letter L. And it was a fun little album to make. And like most amateur bands, you end up breaking even. You spend a couple $1,000s to record the whole thing and have it produced and shipped. And then all your family and friends each buy one and you break even. And you're left over with, you have about 8,000 CDs left over that nobody wants. So my basement here, one of the shelves under the Onondaga cutoff, is loaded with CDs. So if anybody's interested, let me know. But anyway, so that band ended up breaking up. Guys went their different ways after college, settled in different spots and what have you. And Josh, who had played keyboards in the Ridgewoods and was also a good guitar player and really a gifted songwriter, does a nice job writing, I think, and can sing fairly good low harmonies too. He took some voice lessons and what have you. He, who could play guitar, and Ben and I were really missing singing. The rest of the guys were, they went their different ways. But after a few months, Josh has called up Ben and myself and said, "Hey, let's get together and just drink some beer and jam. I just miss singing with you guys." So we got together and sang, and it was pretty good. So we started to go do a couple open mic nights. And one of the guys was like, "Man, you should just get some congas and you guys could have a little folk thing." And so we almost just took that ball and ran with it. Rather than having a whole drum set and a whole plugged in amplification system, we could just work with, the three voices, 3-part harmony, folk song on one guitar, and then a little bit of percussion, like a light percussion thrown in. And so it grew from there, and it ended up taking on a life of its own. It's been a lot of fun.
Are you still doing it?
When we can, which is rare, once or twice every couple of years.
Right.
We'll knock the rust off for a couple hours and then have a little mini show with, we used to do it at Crescent when Josh was able to fly up from Florida. And after a while, one of the guys that went their own way, Tim Gast, he was the bass player in the Ridgewoods, and he came in and started playing bass with Strange River. So some of the pictures of the band in our later incarnations in these last couple of years have been with Tim also playing bass, Josh on guitar, and then Ben and I each doing some percussion, and all four of us singing, which is a hell of a lot of fun.
I'll bet. I'll bet it's a lot of fun. It looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure.
So anyways, what we're doing today is we're doing this is a Christmas extra, because what's happened is every Christmas I struggle. Every Christmas I want to get as many people in as I can. And last year we had like 30 people or 20 people on a podcast, and that was like a 3-hour epic. And so this year I thought that I would go out and I would try to get, some people in the hobby that are known, and get their opinions on the hobby, because I mean so much has changed in the last 12 months. So I talked to Joe Fugate and Tony Cook, who we heard on, or Joe Fugate and Shane Wilson, who we heard on Monday, and today is Wednesday, and now I ended up with way too much stuff. So this is actually an extra. This is like the Wednesday. This is like 2 days before Christmas, and this is an extra. And one of the people I wanted to get to give their opinion about the hobby and what's happening in the future is you.
Well, thank you.
But I've got bad news.
Uh-oh.
You've been bumped.
I got bumped. We're used to that on the railroad. It's okay.
Yeah. You're not going to get a chance to give your opinion, because we just ran. I just ran at it. I got too much. People like to talk.
Not me.
No, not you. So anyways, the first show we heard there a couple of days ago was Joe Fugate, and he ended up talking, like I said to him, we're just going to talk for 15 or 20 minutes. And part of the problem is me, because of course they'll say something and then I'll ask another question. But Joe wanted to talk a lot, so he ended up talking for an hour and 10 minutes. And then Shane Wilson, he was pretty good. I think we talked for about 30 minutes. So that was the first show we have. And then I got Tony Cook, you got to have Tony, because he's got his pulse on the heart of the hobby, I think. Actually, I do.
I think so too. Yeah.
I really do now. I mean, all roads lead through Tony Cook, I think. I mean, he has so much knowledge about the hobby.
His knowledge of the production side, the manufacturing side, and the history of that, not only of collecting, but of what's going on now as well, is really remarkable. I mean, he knows all the manufacturers, and just he's got good intel, as we say in the railfan community. He knows when stuff's coming.
Yeah.
So it's exciting to talk with him. Yeah, when we have the opportunity.
And so then after that, after Tony, we listened to Jason Shron, who has become a huge friend of the AML Nation, and is more than willing to. Anytime I reach out to Jason, he's more than willing to jump on and give his 2 cents worth, or tell us what's happening at Rapido. So then we got him on, and Jason is a great guy to talk to and listen to, and he, of course, the president of Rapido Trains, which so many people are interested in, and they're doing so well. So
it's world-class stuff that's coming out of them these days.
I know.
I'm excited to eventually host the Turbo Liner video here on the Onondaga Cutoff.
Oh, really?
Yes. I'm not sure who's coming, but I did get an official request from Rapido, from their project team, that they want to bring, once the turbo liner is working and fully painted, the factory painted or the hand painted production sample, they're going to bring it down here. We're going to put together one of those fun, wacky Rapido videos. So, Jason, hope you can join us. But certainly it'll be a lot of fun.
You know what we ought to do? Just tell me if this is a crazy idea. This is a perfect example of why I think this idea has legs. I think you should have your own Patreon channel, and people would love to see a behind-the-scenes video of the whole Rapido coming with their turbo train. They would love that stuff.
That would be interesting, yeah.
Yeah, people would. You have a whole fan base that you're not even aware of. That people would, and you're not asking the world. We'll start you out at it'll be $5 or $7 a month, get you 2 or 3 videos a month, and just let people see what it is you're doing in your basement. A 10-minute video of the whole filming of the turbo train, Rapido's turbo train. People would go nuts for that. I would go nuts for that.
That'd be a lot of fun to see, wouldn't it? I'll have to, that's something I can certainly consider. We talked about this Patreon thing. I think we got to start to put something together here.
Oh,
We're right around the corner, you know?
I think, yeah. I mean, don't get me involved because it'll just try to. You're probably better off to go off on your own. Although
Well,
it'd be very.
I'll make sure we'll talk before I do it, though.
Yeah, it'd be very cool. I think going forward, we should amalgamate. We should at some point officially amalgamate Modeler's Life and the Onondaga Cutoff.
Ooh, a co-branding.
Yeah, and go forward as a partnership or something, or go forward as a tandem. Go forward as a solid tandem, a solid 1-2 punch.
No, I think we've already got a lot of that foundation in place.
I think we do, yeah. Except
it's exciting.
Except that today you get bumped.
Again, that's what happens to rookies. It's okay.
And then after Jason, we have got Gordy Robinson, and Gordy has got more passion for this hobby. I am so excited about Gordy Robinson being president of the NMRA. You're not a member of the NMRA, are you?
I am not a member. I was for a while, and I haven't been lately because I haven't really had time to be involved with it on the show and the open house level like I was for a while before we had kids. But I love what Gordy's doing with this organization. It's like it's coming out of its cocoon. What do they call that?
Coming out of its cocoon?
A metamorphosis.
Oh, that's a big word.
It was a slow moving caterpillar, and it is becoming a dynamic 21st century organization under Gordy's leadership, and it's exciting.
In 5 months, he's taken them from not having any kind of thought of having a digital magazine to now that's been officially announced that they're going to have a digital magazine.
Yeah, I mean, the guy is going to finish what he started, and that's what I love about Gordy's approach to things. Is Gordy sees things through.
Yeah.
You know, and look, somebody living on an island in off the coast of Scotland, Orkney. Look, the guy's used to having to finish things. You can't leave stuff out for the drive. Plus, he did time in his nation's military.
Yep.
And he's a young father. He's got a lot of things going on, and the only way you can do that stuff and get anything done is by making sure that you finish.
Yeah.
And Gordy finishes, and it's exciting to be part of it.
That's the one thing I've been proud of with this podcast is I know I've said it before, but I thought, with the website and all the other periphery stuff, but the one thing I always wanted to do was every Monday and Wednesday get out a podcast, and I have managed to do that. In the early days, I really didn't have any kind of, would put the podcast out, but I had no, but once I settled on Monday and Tuesday, I've managed to do it every single week, and it's, I'm proud of that.
You should be proud of it because it's that kind of thing. People can count on it, and you build a loyalty. You build a base of people that are glad to be part of it.
I think if you do start a Patreon channel, if we do manage to do that, and you have a couple of videos a month, I think you should release them on Friday evenings, like Friday or Saturday morning at 2, and then that'll give people something to watch on the weekends.
Not a bad idea, and it would fill a hole.
It would fill a hole. All right, that's it. That's our intro for this, and then we're going to come back and do the outro for this, and that'll be it. So can you take us from here to the next first segment?
But of course. Subway chime, go.
You didn't say that. Didn't sound like you were 100% sure. You didn't sound very excited.
Well, it's the intro.
Yeah, but isn't it?
There's more to come. Subway chime, go.
Yeah, like that. That's the way I think it should be.
All right. Subway chime, go.
Okay, so now I'm here with Tony Cook, the editor. Tony Cook.
I've heard of that guy.
Cookie. Can I refer to you from now on as Cookie?
You mean you can if you'd like. I mean,
Isn't that what like on the Merchant Marines on any lake freighter? Great Lakes freighter, or any the guy that's the cook on the boat. Isn't his nickname always Cookie?
That would be a great job for me. Could you see me with like the big apron on, and everybody would call me Cookie, and I've got those big like boiling pots or whatever, and on some ship, and I could do that.
Yeah, can you cook?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, you're like me. You're a little bit guy. Yeah,
I can. It depends. It can strike me, and I can put something together. Like, it wasn't too bad. Yeah.
Yeah, like when was the last time you made a meal?
I did today. That while I was working, I put a small roast in my Ninja slow cooker with broth on it, and then let it slow cook all afternoon. And then I put rice, peas, and carrots together in it and made gravy out of the broth And that's what Bandit and I had for supper tonight.
Wow.
And he cleaned the bowl up.
I'll bet he did.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I'd known that. I would have come over myself.
There you go. It's a little bland because I can't put onions in it because of him. So you're tasting and thinking, boy, this ought to, I can put a little salt and pepper. But yeah, so that's the only thing about when I cook like that it's, yeah.
Is it gluten-free?
Oh, well, that is for sure. Because the gravy, I do cornstarch instead of flour. So yeah, it's gluten-free. Yeah.
And does it come out thick with cornstarch?
Absolutely. Works as good. In fact, better. Flour always tended to kind of lump up real easy, and cornstarch, if you mix it up with just like tap water and then pour it into like the broth, it makes really good gravy. A little bit of butter and salt and pepper, and boom.
Boom. Yeah. And the beauty of butter is it is gluten-free.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're really hungry, you just take a take a big spoonful of butter and you're good to go. Butter tastes good on anything.
On anything, yes.
So, Tony, what I've been doing here in this particular podcast is I've been traveling around the country talking to a few people that we all know and love on the podcast. Won't mention them right now because I'm not exactly sure who I talked to. But
you don't know who you talked to?
I don't know who I talked to because you're the first person I talked to.
Wow. I mean, this again, it sounds like you've got a really great show coming up. Not this one, but I think at some point you'll have a really great show coming. I hope I'm on that show. But yeah.
Yeah, someday we'll have a really great show. So the last 7 years I've done the State of the Hobby, the State of the Union, the State of the Hobby with Joe Fugate. And I decided this year I thought I would try to get more opinions in rather than just Joe's. I'm going to try to get Joe on again, of course, hear what he's been doing. But I'm interested in, you're an editor now of 3 magazines. And I'm interested in what your view of the hobby is these days, because I know a lot of people constantly are hand-wringing that, oh, my God, the hobby's in trouble, which I think those days are long behind us. And I'm kind of wondering, with all the stuff you do with the magazines and that, like, where are you at with these days with the state of the hobby? As the excitement or as the, I don't know what, the financial boost that the hobby was given because of the pandemic, which is a blessing and a curse all in one. Where do you see the hobby these days?
I still see that lift, that interest that seemed to have gained in 2020 with kind of the pandemic that spring, where there were a lot of people staying at home and such, and that you hear that story from manufacturers and hobby shops and just individuals that they rediscovered or got more involved in the hobby. That I kind of keep waiting for that to like settle a little bit or to change. And I kind of see that wave still going somehow. So yeah, I don't really hear again that cry we heard some years back. Oh, the hobby, what's happening to the hobby? That I think it seems very strong. And then the same too, there was always that it's always old guys, that you and I are young guys in the hobby, that everybody's older, and now I again continue to run into people in the hobby that surprise me. I've got a couple of O-Gauge guys that have done they covered the York show for me, and they've got YouTube channels. If you look up JD's Trains and Chris at RBP Trains, they do videos on 3-Rail O. And I think neither of those guys they're probably in their late 20s to maybe around 30. So again, I just keep running into people that are like half my age or something in the hobby. So it's like, wow, that I also see that seems to, again, I think it's a lot of it's social media. It's, the internet and other things has kind of brought that to where you can share, and there's more and more of that discovery and interest in the hobby. So I continue to see both of those things that we talk about, of the hobby exploding and the younger people in the hobby sure seems to be. I was very thankful that we've expanded HO Collector. It's been I can't believe it, but we completed 5 years, that this is its 6th year that it's going into, and it goes to 68 pages for 2022. And, that's done through White River. So it's expanded from 48 to 68 pages on topics of old HO trains.
That concerns me.
It concerns you.
Yeah,
you think I'm going to run out of HO trains to talk about?
No, I think you're going to find you'll have tons of, but it's like, that's a whole, that's a half a magazine more almost.
It's awesome. because again, there's always, man, I would love to also talk about this. So
do you get a lot of? I'm sorry, now I've cut you off, which is very rude of me.
No,
but do you? Is it the same as the other magazines? Do you get contributors to that magazine, or do you have to write most of it yourself?
It is kind of more myself because most of it comes out of my collection, but I do always have at least a couple of articles that we have contributed. And then I've got my co-editor in Kentucky, Tony Lucio, who does articles as well. So and sometimes I help him with products or things if he doesn't have either some of the catalog backup stuff or samples on some of the models that he's got an idea he wants to work with, that I'll send him stuff that, he works on things out of my collection and vice versa. So, but we get, like, I've got a series we've been running on a guy that worked at Lifelike around 1980. And he talked about what it was like going to the hobby shows and putting catalogs together and all of that kind of stuff. It was Tim Garner is the guy's name. And he worked for Saul Kramer there in Baltimore with Lifelike. And it's a fun series of articles. I can't remember if it's the one in the first quarter or fourth quarter, but he talks about being at one of the hobby shows where I think George Burns entertained and like Dionne Warwick was there to sing. And did you know who the Testors company, like Testors Paint, did you know who his daughter was? She was Macmillan and wife. And now I've gone blank on her name. It was Rock Hudson and Susan St. James.
That was
Susan, that was his daughter, because he said we saw Susan St. James was there with her dad, who owned Testors. And it's like, wow, I never knew that.
Wow.
Yeah, how cool is that? And that she was there at the whatever event for the hobby show. And it's like, how about that? But that has been a fun thing that we run into some of that where people that were either in the industry or associated with the hobby would like to tell their stories or talk about it. And those things are fun. I've got people that come forward on, hey, I collect this or that, and that's my thing. And would you like coverage of it? We're going to do John English's hobby line from the 1950s. Rick Tonet, Tonet, He's done another, I think he did Lionel for us a few years ago. He's going to do an overview of John English and hobby line, which that's going to appear probably second or third quarter. So there's always a lot of fun things that come out and you learn more. And
so would this be, is it more, it's more informational? There's not necessarily a lot of people that collect these trains, but there's a lot of people that are interested in the history of the hobby. Would that be fair?
It's both. I have people, I just did a thing on Tyco billboard boxcars of the 70s, like Old Spice, Canada Dry, Mason Dots, that again, people want to know, okay, were there differences in those? Yep. Some of them had this or that printed on the side and then other runs didn't. And so there are people that collect the stuff. They want identification. They want to know what variations are out there. How long were they available? What's the more uncommon, that kind of thing. So you do have just kind of the standard collector, but then again, there's just that appreciation for the history of it, that, oh, I always knew that model, or that was one of the first kits I ever built, and I never realized that its tooling came from this other company. And so it's always fun to get that kind of feedback, from people that either rediscover something or learn something they didn't know about a model that was important to them or, early in their hobby career.
So, I mean, really, just by the mere fact of what we're talking about, in that, the collector is expanding in size, Dieselier is expanding a little bit in size, and then you were telling me that you'd like to expand the news, but then the boss, the Kevin U. Daly.
I think just, the economics of it, 100 pages is kind of where it's, staying. But
so the news magazine, Model Railroad News, is bursting at the seams, basically.
It seems like it. Boy, every issue between, I've got a number of reviewers that do different products. We've added several new people in the last couple of years that review things for us. Like, I think, Randall Pratt that works at a hobby shop out. He's done some great in-scale reviews for us that I always end up with more content than will fit, which that's not a bad thing. But it's because there's so much going on, both news and new products, that the hobby's just rolling full steam.
I was talking to Bernard Helen there a few weeks back, and he was telling me that in November he had the most orders he's ever had. Now, that company's only literally been going less than 2 years. He started it just as a side little cottage industry, and now he's already to the point where he's going to rent some space, move into some space, hire an employee or two, And I mean, the thing is, he had double the number of orders in November that he'd had in any other month previous.
Isn't that something? Yeah, I forget what we had. It was October or November that we had elk or moose, or I forget what it was on the cover with the Canadian train set.
Yeah.
And Vic Roseman in New York is doing a couple of his crew figures and painting those, and that'll be a future review. But his work is fantastic. Man, that little Lionel that was done of you has taken on a life of its own. I don't think I ever opened Facebook that I don't see you there with your hands in your pockets, the cap on, and then Mike Buddy in St. Louis even had decals or decals done for your shirt, so you can wear a Modeler's Life shirt that he emailed me before, as he was getting that together. And I forget who did those. Was it
a Precision Design
Bollinger?
Bill Brillinger.
Yes. And that I said, oh yeah, talk to him. He said, who would? I said, oh yeah, he would do those. That would be awesome. And I think Mike Buddy was giving those to people. Like if
he was just giving them and he sent out like 50 sets, and then he sent a bunch to Bernard, some extras to Bernard, and Bernard Helen of Mini Prints has been sending them out. Wow. So then I said to him, well, just how many have you sent out?
That's incredible. And there's a lot of businesses like that we've run across.
Yeah.
That one kid that's doing the Apte locomotive works in Iowa. I've heard from him recently that he's starting to get the products into hobby shops. Wow. That he has enough in his catalog, and he's got, I don't know how many printers he's running all the time now for all those shells he makes. But he was asking me about, I'm talking to this shop and that shop. I can't remember if it was Spring Creek or who, but that they're going to be having some of his products. So again, these smaller businesses, and that's always been the hobby, all the way back to some of the classics like Ulrich and stuff, where the guy had a regular job. I think he worked at an aircraft plant, that Charles Ulrich, and started the business in his garage making the track cleaner thing and then freight cars. So that's always been a way into the hobby, but it's fun to see it 21st century style with printers and other things.
I think that's something that this hobby offers that not a lot of hobbies do offer, is that not only people will say, you can do electronics or woodworking or model building or operation or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But one of the things that's often overlooked is the opportunity. There's an opportunity to experience having your own business, whether, it can be a small business, a small garage business where it's, you have a full-time job. But the hobby offers that opportunity to people to have their own small business and experience what that's like, or become a writer, do some journalism. I mean, those are things or you could start a podcast.
I wonder if anybody has. Do you think anybody started a podcast on model trains?
I'm not sure. It'd be cool if you talk to people not only just about the hobby, but about what they did in life. And speaking of what are you doing for Christmas?
For Christmas?
Yeah,
I'm not doing anything for Christmas, actually.
You're not going to your parents?
No, I went over to Illinois at Thanksgiving and visited with my mom and dad, and my sister is over there with her husband, and I got to see all them and took Bandit over. And he loves seeing, my sister's got 2 little Yorkies that he just runs wild with. So we did that, but no, Christmas week is running into going to press with HO Collector and Model Railroad News a few days before Christmas. But after Christmas, I was looking at going down to the U-Dailies in Texas and visiting there for a couple of days and doing some slide work that I've got railroad slides to trade back and forth. So we may do a little Texas run.
Okay. And didn't they used to have a place in Missouri?
Yes, out in the middle of Missouri. Yeah. And now they're based in East Texas, southeast of Dallas.
Yeah, and for a long time when they were in Missouri, you would spend a lot of time scanning slides for them.
And working out there on slides. So the slides are in Texas now. So I've got slides to take back down and slides to pick up and for different projects and things. Yeah.
So how long does it take you to drive to Texas from Missouri?
The drive down to their place, I think, was about 7.5 or so hours. Yeah.
Okay. Well, how long would it be if you observed the speed limit?
I did. Yeah, I did. I did not get.
You always observe the speed limit. So why would I even ask?
I don't know why you'd even ask that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Have you ever been in a car with me where we were pulled over for going beyond the speed limit? Oh, wait a minute. Okay, well, never mind.
Possibly.
Yeah, never mind. Never mind.
Have you ever been pulled over for speeding with somebody that started doing a Facebook Live video?
Yeah, fortunately, yes. Yeah.
Okay, so you think that the hobby's on its way? Nothing has changed. It's full speed ahead.
Well, I mean, I don't say that nothing has changed. I think again the social media and that other stuff. I think all that was happening, but again, kind of that rush at stuff with the pandemic. I think also moved us forward faster on these live stream events. I mean, now talking like I did one with Atlas recently on Train World with Ken Bianco Jr., where Atlas showed us the new catalog and walked through the pages of it. I mean, things like that we never got to do but you could have. I mean, in recent years, why were we not doing that? And yet now that has stayed with us post or, the pandemic stuff being what it is now, that we've not put that away, that it's not back to just ignoring that stuff. We still do those live events and they're awesome shows to do. That Atlas one, we talked for an hour on new products. I got to ask questions like, hey, are you going to change this or that? Or what do you think will be the tooling change to make that happen? And, some of it was, well, I'm not sure on that. I know we're working on this. We'll probably do this. So again, the info that we get is just an overload of, whereas before you'd look at that catalog, scratch your head and go, gee, I wonder if they're going to change this, or remember that model needed this or that. It kind of looks like maybe they are. And now it's like we are talking to the person and they answer it. So that kind of stuff is fantastic.
Yeah. You can kind of pin their ears back and say, so what's happening here? What are you doing? Yeah, I'm with you. I see you're the darling of the internet now. I see you're on this show and that show and the next show.
I don't think I really am. Yeah, no.
No, I think you are. If anybody in model railroading, if anybody's the YouTube guy, it's got to be Tony Cook, the editor of Model Railroad News, managing editor of Diesel Era, co-creator of. Are you the sole creator of the magazine? Was it your idea?
Yes, I had the websites on like Tyco and old trains. And when people would donate, I had a button where you could, send me $1 or something from PayPal if, you like the site.
Right.
And I put together like a little couple page PDF on, I think I did Athern's Western kits, the cowboy kits that they had that were like O scale. In fact, I just did that for Collector Consist and Railroad Model Craftsman. I do that quarterly in that magazine. And the December 2021 Railroad Model Craftsman has a story on that, like half dozen or so stagecoach and cowboy sets that Athern released. And they're in like blue box packaging. They look just like they'd be a train kit, but you open it up and there's horses and cowboys and a stagecoach, and you put it together and it's about 1/48, about O scale. And I had that little PDF that I would send people as a thank you, like, thank you for donating to my website. And here's this. And I think I called it like HO Resource Extra. And I had shown that to the U-Dailies, which doesn't seem like that long ago, but 6 years ago, and said, this might be something that could be quarterly or an annual or something. And they said, yeah, well, let's give it a shot. And so, yeah, it was kind of my idea. And then I brought Tony Lucio in. He's a fellow collector that I'd known for many years, and said, hey, let's do this.
So did you have the website before you started working on for White River Productions?
Yes, the website I started in 2000 when I was working at Union Station in Kansas City. At that time, the internet's still pretty new, or seemed to be, early 2000. And seemed like there were websites for collecting Hot Wheels or, Pez dispensers or G.I. Joe action figures. But you mean, really, nobody's put up a website for Tyco trains or old HO trains? And I started with Tyco, and it kind of went from there. So, yeah.
And does the website still exist, or are you primarily now just working on the magazine?
It's ho-scaletrains.com, and it's hosted by White River, and it's something that I was kind of redoing and expanding, but believe it or not, I'm juggling a lot of things, and it doesn't get the priority that it should, but I do get asked about it probably every couple months. Hey, is that site it's like, yes, I have every intention of doing that. And sometimes about midnight or 1 o'clock before I turn off the computer and go to bed, I think, wait, let's do these Tyco hopper cars and put them on that, because let's get that page up there before I go to bed. So I do from time to time, but yeah.
See this? I'm telling you, I'm thinking you got to watch your workload. You just got to watch your workload.
It's not like I'm landing a crippled 747 at Salt Lake City or something.
Yeah, don't get me started on Airport 75.
Have you watched 79 yet? Have you watched the Concorde? If you can badmouth 75, I mean, when we get to Charo arguing with Sylvia Christel about Charo wants to bring her dog on board the Concorde, I think there's where we'd not even jumped the shark we've completely passed all that.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you can badmouth 75, but okay.
Okay, well, this show is going to be aired on the Monday before Christmas. So I just wanted to say Happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you for all your help over the years. We're great friends, and I cherish that greatly. And
how long have you been doing this show now? Did I hear you say 7 years? That's not
7
possible.
years.
No.
Yeah, it's every August is the anniversary.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And then I always go with that crazy story of I literally started this show 10 days before I was diagnosed with cancer.
I mean, wow.
I know.
And I was telling somebody that recently, and they're like, you could just see their eyes getting big. And I'm like, yeah. And
I know.
he kept doing the show, and the show has now more than outlived the cancer thing. Like, oh, yeah, no.
That's in the rearview mirror.
Wow.
It's just crazy. And I often try to think to myself, well, why did I keep doing it? I know.
Yeah.
And I don't really have any clear memory of, I don't have much clear memory of the first few months, and I don't really have a clear memory of what the train of thought was in my head that made me keep doing it. I mean, it was a little sporadic in the first, but then I just kind of kept plugging away. And I think what it was is I would talk to people and it would give me something to do. And I thought, well, at least I'll do it. But then it,
wow.
And it just turned into this, and now, of course, it's just this. It's just such great fun. We've created the AML Nation. We've met so many people. You and I became friends from it, and are great friends from it. I mean, it's just you know what it is? Yeah. It's a Christmas miracle.
It is. It's a Festivus miracle.
It's a Festivus miracle.
I mean, it is something. When I there's probably not an issue of Model Railroad News I think I've done in the last year or more that doesn't have somebody I met through the podcast. Well, my assistant editor, Shane Mason, I met because that was the first show I did with you guys.
Yeah.
And like we had Mike Ostertag built an S-scale flat car that was in a recent issue. Luke Lemons does stuff for us on a regular basis. He's got a build of Canon HO gondola. I mean, I always have some in fact, there was a Lionel Strang guy that did a thing of Barry Barry Silverthorne's line that did that with a City Classics gas station. So I mean, yeah, that's a lot of fun. It's neat to see that. I think that if somebody said, well, what do you mean that social media has so changed the hobby and everything? It's like, okay, well, I've done the magazine for 11 or so years, Model Railroad News, and at first, even though the internet and everything is what it is today, more or less, I look at it now and see all the people I interact with, either on like the Fans of a Modeler's Life Facebook page, on internet, all of that suddenly there is this whole group that I don't feel like I'm kind of doing the magazine in a bubble of talking with people like at Walthers or Athern or, readers emailing me. Now it's this whole group that's always kind of there and participating. And so there's an example of that when something comes out, now I bounce it off somebody of, hey, I know you're into this or that. Like Chris Adams did that Rapido New Haven SW1200, that when that came out, like, you know what? I think that's even the era that he models, and I bet he'd like to do that. And he did a fantastic review and shared pictures of his layout with that switcher running and talked about how some Atlas track laying book had a switch engine with a little local, and that's one of the things that inspired him to get into model railroading. Like, how neat would that be? And that was one of the pictures he did for that Model Railroad News review, was a switcher with 2 or 3 cars in a caboose. And he said that this scene is what kind of sparked my interest. And that kind of stuff's just awesome that we have. It so enriches the experience of the hobby. The hobby was always fun. If I didn't know anybody else and just did model railroad stuff in a vacuum, it would still be great. I love trains. But boom, to suddenly have all these people that will just hit you up on Facebook, or you get an email and they say, hey, I just saw this. Have you seen this? And it's like, oh, wow, that's cool. I didn't know that was coming out. Or yeah, and they're also going to do this. That, again, it's just that fun of suddenly you have this whole clubhouse of people running around all the time.
Yeah, exactly. It's like for the Springfield train show, last year we went to a hockey game and I bought like 18 tickets. And this year there's another hockey game on the Friday night. So I bought 27 tickets. And And I
Wow.
thought, well, I'll see. But I mean, already like 20 of them have been spoken for. And at least I think it's like around 20. Our buddy Tracy Boyd, who's the official flight attendant of the AML network, she's now becoming the official hostess of the AML network. And she's in charge of figuring out who all's coming and who all's getting a ticket. And anyway, and if you're interested in either that or the dinner on Saturday night, which I think we have room for 40 or 50 people on that, if you just send an email to amlhostess@gmail.com, boom. On the other end of that email will be Tracy writing your name down and putting you on the list.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And again, how that stuff is, those kind of events, I can't wait till we do, and I'm hoping we get to do it for 22, the Rochelle.
That's Tom Stock.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's Tom Stock that round.
Yeah.
I mean, those get-togethers are just a blast. Anybody, and we always have people show up that we meet for the first time and then become buddies. That it's like, oh wow, yeah. I mean, wow. It's been a wild trip.
It really has. It really has improved so much. All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to move on to the next person who I have no idea who that is, but I'm going to move on to somebody else that's going to tell me their take on the state of the hobby.
Awesome. I look forward to hearing everyone's thoughts.
All right. Thank you very much, Tony. I love you, Tony.
I love you, man.
I love you, man.
Oh my God. There's the person you need to contact for the state of the hobby.
Who's that?
I love you, man. The dude.
Oh, the dude. Oh, yeah, the dude. Yeah. Wow, that's a full day's work. Half an hour with the dude is a full day's work.
Well, he wants to have this tell-all whatever. So,
I know. He wants to do a tell-all about his life, but we'll see about that. Anyways, I don't think that's really Christmassy.
Probably not. But
No.
As I say, I would love to do it because it would be we'd never be able to release it, but it would be a fun one just to listen to.
Absolutely. Okay, Bruce, here we go again.
Are we going again? Where are we going this time?
We're jumping. We're going all the way to Markham, Ontario.
Ooh,
to the worldwide headquarters of Rapido Trains Inc. Is it Inc. or is it Limited or is it LLC or what is it?
It is Inc. Actually, officially you have to put the INC period in the name, but we never bought it.
No, it's just Rapido Trains.
Just playing loosey goosey with the rules, eh?
Yes.
So what we're doing is we're going to visit a bunch of people around the hobby, important people like yourself around the hobby, and it's 15, 20 minutes, and we'd like you to help us determine the state of the hobby, the state of the union of the hobby as we jump forward into 2022. So the strength, the vitality of the hobby, where you see it going. So let me start. I saw you just came back from England.
I was indeed. Yeah, I was in visiting our UK office.
And how'd that go?
That went very well. Visiting the UK office was fabulous. It was so cool to be able to go to England and go into an office that is ours. It's got Rapido Trains sign up above the door. And while I was there, I was downstairs. The offices are upstairs. I was down in the warehouse. And the door chime goes. So I go up to the front door, and there's some guy there saying, "All right, Jason Shron." I said, "Yeah, it's for you." Right? I thought, it just so happened that my daughter's Hanukkah present had arrived because I had bought it from eBay.co.uk, and it arrived while I was there. So that was so cool. It's like, wow, I'm in my office, and a guy just delivered something to me. And the funny thing is, I lived in the UK for several years, and I've been back all the time. And I've always been centered around Birmingham, which is in the West Midlands, sort of central England. And this office is in a village in Kent called Staplehurst. And I've never been there before. So I was going to a place I've never been to go to my office. That was cool. That was cool.
This is your first visit to the office, or?
It was my first visit to the office. Yeah. Well, obviously with COVID, we couldn't travel.
Right.
And we didn't even get the office set up until last summer. So yeah, it was my first time at the office, and I came down with. It's very funny, in England, everyone drives standard transmission, right? Their cars, they're not into automatic. So when I lived there, I learned how to drive a standard. Whenever I go back, I drive a standard. There's a problem is that whenever you rent a car from budget, they no longer let you get a handbrake. It's all electronic, and I essentially had to relearn. A friend of mine taught me how to relearn how to drive standard without a handbrake. Because you're basically, you have to ride the clutch is the only way to describe it. Those of you listeners who drive standard, when you've got the electronic hard brake, you handbrake, you do everything that you're told not to do with this thing, right? And so I rented a car in Maidstone in Kent, and it had a handbrake. I haven't driven a standard car with a handbrake in like 6 years. So Richard, my project manager, and I are in the car, and I'm driving, and we're on a hill, stopped at a red light, and I just start driving it like the newer cars without the handbrake, and we start rolling back, and poor Richard, like 40 years old, he's going, handbrake, he's screaming at me. It's like, oh yeah, I got to use that. So it's such an adventure going down. You're driving on the other side of the street. You're driving a standard transmission. I love it. It's so much fun.
So let's back up there a little bit, Bruce. I'm thinking he's doing power slides around every corner because
sounds like you're flipping in there, getting the brake on, spinning around, and
donuts. Donuts in the parking lot.
He's rally driving through the wilds.
I know. I'm thinking on all the years I drove standard, I probably used a handbrake like 5 times.
The handbrake it's like for your hill starts, right? That's when you need the handbrake.
Right.
But the newer cars, you don't need them.
But only on really steep hills.
So what you're doing is called a ride in the clutch.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you have no
what I'm doing is moving my foot faster than molasses on a cold day.
The lovely smell that comes out of your car that you really enjoy. That's called you melting your clutch.
No.
Let's just get back to old drag racing days. See the green and hammer down and go.
Yeah, exactly. Heel toe. That's what you're doing. Heel toe. All right. So
meanwhile, the whole point is the British thing that Rapido has expanded into the UK, and we delivered our first models recently, and we've got our next model is the APTE passenger train, which it's actually finished in the factory, waiting for decoders. That's this, like, we talk about supply chain issues that have plagued us for the last year. I have a complete shipment of APTEs sitting in the factory, finished, waiting for decoders, and they've been sitting there for almost a month, waiting for decoders.
APTEs, what's that?
It's an experimental passenger train that was developed by British Rail around 1970 to 75.
Okay.
And it's a high speed. It was their first proper tilting train, just like the LRC tilts in Canada. And it used to tilt in Canada. And so it was I brought it out, Rapido brought it out in 2016, and we did a new run, and it's sitting in the factory. It just can't leave until we got decoders. So that's our challenge.
So are you guys gonna have to manually install the decoders in each train?
No, they're installed at the factory, but they're waiting. So you've got at the factory, there's a room with tables, and the tables are filled with APTE power cars all lined up with the shells beside them, because you can't put the shells on until you put the decoders in. And we're waiting for decoders. And this has been the biggest. There have been 2 huge challenges.
All right, slow down there, sport. And so where are these APTs exactly?
They are sitting at one of our factories in Dongguan, China.
Okay. All right. So you're sitting.
Yeah, they haven't left yet. Okay. So that's the challenge. We've had 2 or 3 big issues facing the hobby in the last year. The big issue number one is, this APTE demonstrates, is it's been very, very difficult to get certain components for circuit boards. So there have been lots of delays for decoder shipments, for circuit board shipments. We had the B36-7 that we delivered a few weeks ago. That was sitting finished at another factory of ours in China. It was sitting there for 4 weeks waiting for circuit boards. At that point, decoders weren't such an issue, but circuit boards, like the motherboards, were. So because everyone's got different suppliers, right? So ESU has their suppliers, we have our suppliers. So then we could get the decoders, we couldn't get the circuit boards. Now we can get the circuit boards, we can't get the decoders. So that's a huge the supply chain delays of getting these electronic components that set us back months and months over the past year. And then, like I say, months and months cumulative. If you add all the delays for each project put together, it's several months delay. And then shipping delays. We also had our recent Procore tank car left the factory last week of June and arrived here I'm thinking it arrived here around October 28th, 27th, something like that. So it's 4 full months, like July, August, September, October, 4 full months to get here. And so usually it's 5-6 weeks. So that's been a real challenge too. So those have been the 2 biggest challenges. The other challenge is our costs have gone up. It's so high. There's such increases in costs that virtually all the manufacturers now are having to raise prices. We have no choice.
Well, you have no choice. And who handles your logistics? Do you have an agent?
We have a very good. We actually, here's the thing: when things started to go haywire in the spring, we actually switched to, we have two freight forwarders we use. One was our main freight forwarder, but we were getting such bad service from them, we went to a different one. Another one we used in the past. And then the service initially was good and then just got worse because it's like the knock-on effect affected that freight forwarder a little bit after ours. And then we realized, oh, actually, no, our main freight forwarder is much better. So we went back to our main freight forwarder because they're based, they have offices in China and offices in Toronto, the Toronto-based company. So they can give us incredible tracking information. We know exactly where our shipments are. And the other freight forwarder using, like, they would just say, it's here. It's like, where is it? Oh, we don't know. And then 3 days later, it's here. Right? So we also found that we don't, our shipments with our old freight forwarder would go through Prince Rupert, which is a city on northwestern Canada, Canadian coast, as opposed to Vancouver, which everyone knows. And they would get through much more quickly. And the shipments going through Vancouver were just getting stuck in Vancouver for a month and a half. They're just sitting there. So it's been a real challenging year, I'll tell you. Now, I'm not complaining in terms of our sales and stuff like that. But the year was a huge challenge.
Okay, so now going forward with the hobby, do you feel like this because we talked to Gordy Robinson, and I mean he's the president of the Nmra, and I mean he's just wildly excited. He's convinced, as I am, that this influx of people. Actually, he described it really well, didn't he, Bruce? He said there was a whole bunch of people that were already kind of model railroaders that then found time on their hands and said, well, maybe I should, kind of started to investigate it more and then gotten more involved in the hobby. And so I feel like a lot of these people that have come to the hobby over the last year and a half are going to stay. Do you get that sense?
Oh, absolutely. I think that, all kidding aside, and I recognize that COVID has been very difficult for so many people, so many of your listeners, and so many of us have had runs in with COVID, and our family members, we've lost people. But in terms of the hobby, COVID is the best thing that's happened to this hobby since, I don't know, the 1950s. So it's brought so many people in tune with their hobbies. And I remember when I got the bus, when we bought the bus, our old fishbowl bus, and we drove it across Canada, and we did a video, and I was talking about hobbies because I saw big similarities between the bus guys and the train guys. And I said, we as not just model railroad community, but hobby community, all the hobby community has to get together to promote and support people getting involved in their hobbies. And the challenge that we had was everyone's just too busy, or they're busy and they're obsessed with their screens. The average it's easy when you finish a tough day of work and you've just had supper, and then you've got 2-3 hours. It's easy just to sit back on the couch, open up your phone, and start playing a game, or watch something on Netflix or whatever. Having a hobby means, okay, I got to go sit at the hobby table, work on something. I got to go down to the layout room, got to do this, got to do that. And for the longest time, I felt that especially people, Gen Xers like myself, were not like we just weren't getting down to hobbies. We were getting too distracted by other things. And what COVID's done is it's made, for the first month, people sat down on their phones to chill out or watch Netflix. And then they said, hang on a second, I can't do this forever. I'm going to go and explore my hobbies or new hobbies. And so the whole hobby industry in the last 2 years has had the biggest boost ever. Really, like it's not been a boost like this since the heady days of the 1950s and when the economy was booming post World War II. So obviously we're not at the same kind of numbers we were back then in terms of sales figures adjusted for inflation. But I can assure you that we are in an absolute renaissance. And everybody I've spoken to in the hobby, sales, they've had their best year ever. Model train stores, remote controlled, military modeling. People are getting into it in a big way. And I'm so grateful for that, because the more people we have in the hobby, the stronger we are as a hobby. There's new manufacturers now getting into it. If you notice that there's people who are doing more garage type laser, look at open up a copy of Craftsman and look at how the number of laser kit manufacturers has exploded. That you see little ads, laser kit structures. These are people who are taking their hobby to the next level, and they're becoming a small manufacturer, and there's a market for it now.
Yeah, there's also a number getting into 3D printing.
I was going to say 3D printing as well. Yeah, so I'm looking into right now some of the showcase miniature stuff, and a lot of that's a perfect example. It's a business that's really taken off. That is stuff made in the USA with laser cut and 3D printing and cast parts. It's fabulous.
So as far as you're concerned, it's full steam ahead then.
Oh, 100%, 100%. I look at Rapido's pre because we're working on a pre-order basis. We don't make a lot of stock, and we closed the order desk on an auto flood coal hopper, a couple months ago. And I in the 17 years since Rapido was incorporated, it was incorporated 17 years ago last month. I've never seen freight car pre-orders like this. Like I've never seen it. Like if you look at our freight car production runs of 2 years ago, and it's more than double the size of the production run right now, and that's pre-orders, right? So these aren't just people who are walking into the hobby shop saying, "Oh, that looks cool." These are people who have gotten into the hobby to such an extent that they realize you have to pre-order, and they've gone to their hobby shop and they've pre-ordered, and they've gone to tell their dealer that I need 50 of these auto flood hoppers, and that's been amazing. And we're seeing that with all like our new single sheath USRA box car, which is. This is a model that ran mostly in the 40s. This was not a real big transition era. It was already, the numbers are starting to reduce in the transition era. Some of them lasted until 1970, but it was really at the heyday in the 30s and 40s. And those orders are like we haven't hit the deadline at the time when you and I are speaking now, and we're already beyond the sales of the last run of USRA double sheath boxcars past the deadline, right? So like that's what I'm talking about. The numbers are just way up. And the challenge now is meeting up with that demand in China. We've actually opened another factory because there's too much demand, and there's now a backlog in China for certain projects.
So, why do you have any thoughts then of like this boxcar is so popular? Is there any thoughts of geez, maybe now we need to start holding a bit of stock, or are you still going to stay?
So we are now making more stock than we did. It's still a small amount of stock, but we do make more than we did, and we're finding that in most cases the stock is gone within a month of the model arriving. Sometimes stuff sticks around for 2-3 months, but usually it's gone within a month, or in some cases it's gone within a few days. We announced recently a dome car, an HO scale dome car, Bud Dome. It's called a Skyline. It's a mid-train dome, and we only offered it in I think it was 3 paint schemes. But it was the sort of thing where we had one of our factories coming online. They needed another project to do. So we said, why don't you make these for us? And we announced them, and they're high end. They're like $140, $130. And we announced them, and they sold out in a day and a half. They sold out to the dealers. And what we do is when we have a launch like that, we tell our dealers first. We give them first crack for a week before we announce to the public. If we have any stock left after the week, then we say, well, no, the stock was gone in a day and a half. When we did our Gunderson well car, the stock sold out in 48 minutes. That was in the spring. So that was clearly, we didn't make enough. We didn't make enough of that one. In fact, we sold out in 48 minutes. We didn't make enough.
Yeah, the last few times we've talked, we've had this discussion where everything sells out so fast. So is that just endlessly frustrating that you can't seem to figure out? Because as a businessman, you don't want to sell out that fast. You want to have enough for everybody to get them. So is that just an endlessly frustrating equation in your head, trying to figure out how many you should make?
No, not at all. It depends. But yes, it's that guesswork. So what we do is when we're doing something by pre-order, then it's very clear. I mean, we've got an order for 5,000. We're going to make 5,500. We're going to make 6,000, and that's it, right? Or whatever the number is. That's how many we're making, and we're done. And if we sell out, and often we'll sell out by the time it arrives. If we make 10, 15% inventory, it'll sell out by the time. And that's what I want. I want the stuff to come in and go out the door. Okay, because I can't afford to be sitting on inventory for months and months and months. When we do these surprise runs, we have a locomotive that we're starting work on, which is going to be a surprise run for 2022. It's our surprise runs are usually reruns; they're not first runs of projects. We always build them conservatively because we don't want to be stuck. The worst case and sometimes we screw it up. We made a run of FP9A locomotives, and we did this in 2018. They had not been run since 2012. We thought 6 years. There's got to be demand for it. And we announced them, and I think it took a year and a half. I think we might still have a few back there, actually, in the warehouse. And that was a mistake. It was the project was a mistake. And so I have to be very careful. Sometimes we do the right thing, sometimes we don't. So when doing these surprise runs, I want to sell out quickly because it means that we made the right number. And these dome cars, I'll tell you, if I brought out these dome cars, say in a year or two, when there's no problems with goods not arriving from China. There's all these shipment delays I've been talking about. If we brought it up, I don't think we would have sold out so quickly. But the stores were saying, we got nothing on the shelves, all right? We had so few deliveries compared to what we expected. We'll take them and we'll put them on the shelf so we have full shelves showing product. And so the stores really appreciated, and that's why they sold out so quickly, because they need stock right now. So there was like an aligning of demand, of forces, right? So we made a smaller quantity, which we were happy with. The stores happened to need stock at this moment. Boom, they went in 2 days. And that's actually, that to me worked really well. I don't get frustrated with that at all. That's a good situation.
Okay. Here's my final question. So as you're dozing off to sleep at night and you're just, thinking about the business, do you have thoughts about, okay, now, Jason, how do we continue these glory days, this renaissance? How do we continue this success with the model? What is it we have to do here at Rapido to make this success and all these, whatever we're talking, the good times? How do we keep the good times going? Do you have those discussions with yourself?
Oh, all the time. I think the key for Rapido's success to keep it going is to keep innovating and to keep bringing out new stuff. So Rapido, for the company our size, we probably spend twice as much a year on tooling than we should. So we never have any cash. Like there's never any cash at Rapido, spare cash. And so like that's, we always have to innovate and do new projects. So, I mean, I look at, we recently put the slumber coach into tooling. We recently put the New Haven County cars into tooling. We're like every month there's anywhere from 2 to 4 projects tooling being started. And so that means that we won't have to rely, if all you're bringing out is reruns of the same thing. Here's a new paint scheme. Here's a new variation of the locomotive we brought out 3 times. You're going to lose people's interest. You have to keep on bringing out new stuff. And what I love best about what we're doing now is that we've got, on the one hand, we have a modern Bombardier locomotive like we did the M420 recently. And on the other hand, we've got USR8 boxcars. And on the other hand, we've got brand new Bombardier bi-levels that are used in commuter service. And on the other hand, we've got New Haven County cars from the late 1940s. So by having a variety of equipment from the 30s to the present day, it means that we're not stuck in one niche. So we keep reaching new people, new modelers, because like, for example, now we're bringing out a Santa Fe reefer. We've never brought out a accurate Santa Fe freight car before. In that era, we brought out the USR8s, but I'm not even sure if we did. Yeah, you did the USR8 in Santa Fe, I think. But this is like a proper purpose-built Santa Fe reefer. It's a gorgeous car. And now suddenly the Santa Fe guys are saying, hey, Rapido's got some stuff for us. We recently, in the last 2-3 years, we've become known as a Southern Pacific manufacturer, because we brought out the SP SW1200 and the SP RS11 with all the full light package, and then the SP B36-7 with their light package. So the SP guys of different eras are starting to notice Rapido. So by branching out to all these different eras and railroads, and working obviously with the different historical societies to make sure that they're correct, that allows us to reach more of those people. And that's the way that we keep this growth happening, both for Rapido and the hobby in general, is that, yeah, this guy likes modeling 1940s, 1930s. There's nothing out there for him. Boom, Rapido comes out with a 1930s boxcar, and I can now get on to this. I see my friends with their super awesome modern, Automaxes or Gunderson cars, and now suddenly I've got a really beautiful model of my car, and that variety, that's going to fuel this hobby growing and being strong in time.
Yeah. You could talk about your reefer. There's a lot of interesting chatter on the various citrus modeling groups about this coming out. They're quite excited about getting their hands on an actual decent model.
Well, it was designed by John Sheridan when he worked for us, and then it was taken over by Matt. And John really championed. We got to make this thing, like, we got to have see-through etched metal grills, and you got to see the generator inside. And that was really John pushing that. And it was a smart move, because that elevates this car. And then the reefer, like the sound module, is optional. You can buy that separately and just plug it in. You lift up the shell, you plug it in, and so it's just, you don't need sound in every car. Why should you be paying for, say, it's gonna be too loud for your train? But say you're doing a string of them, like every 4th car, you put the little sound generator in it, and it'll be pretty cool. So like that's you have to innovate, and sometimes the innovating, like, it doesn't work, right? We tried for 5 years to redesign our HO scale turbo trade model with the doors that open and the steps that fold out. And that was my dream to have that. And we worked with engineers of all stripes to try and get that to happen. And it just we weren't able to do it. The materials that we were using did not have the strength just to do it well. And it was very disappointing. But that was something we worked on for literally 5 years. And we finally gave up on it a few months ago, that we can't do it. Right. So you got to innovate. But obviously, if something gets too fiddly or too finicky, or it's just going to be too impractical, you can't do it.
Yeah. You must get thousands and thousands of, hey, why don't you build one of these?
Oh, yeah. Everybody wants something different.
What is the most popular request out there?
I'd say the most popular request is not the most popular model. There is a core group of Amtrak and Go Transit modelers who really, really want an extended body GP40 TC, which was originally a Go Transit locomotive, went over to Amtrak, and it's basically a stretched GP40 that has a head end power generator in it. And they're like a cult, and they follow us wherever we go. And whenever we're talking about what products we want, like, we get bombarded with GP40 TC requests. So I genuinely think that we'd sell at least 40 of the GP40 TC. Yeah, one to each of the 40 guys who's bugging us.
I would drive.
But you put different numbers on them, and then you're okay, right?
Yeah, it would drive me nuts. That's the one thing I hear you say. But we're going to finish up here. But it would just absolutely drive me nuts to produce a product and have it sell out so fast, and I'd be sitting there going, I should have made 1,000 more of these or something. That would drive me nuts. It seems,
but it's just one of many products. So if we were like a one horse show, right, where you've got one product and this is my one chance to make it, and I could have sold another 1,000, couldn't have, man. But like, like that Skyline Dome car, it arrived, and then like a week later, the B100 box cars arrived. And we've got, arriving at the end of this month, we've got GLA hoppers, we've got X72 box cars, and we've got steam generator cars all arriving. So it's like boom, 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 boom. So when you've got so much stuff arriving, whether you could have sold like 1,000 more, 500 more, whatever, it doesn't matter. You've got other stuff coming. And then it means there's an opportunity that down the road we can do it again. Right. But like the Skyline, I felt that was the market could handle that number of cars. And obviously it was right. Maybe who knows? What if we'd made an extra 500 cars and then we had 400 of them sitting on the shelf? I'd rather sell out in 2 days and have nothing on the shelf than have be stuck with hundreds of the shelf for months and months, like those FP9A locomotives.
Okay, cool. All right. So that's it. So you're, as far as you're concerned, it's full speed ahead with the hobby. Things are looking promising. You were not worried about a slide back, and away we go.
Well, Rapido, because of COVID, we only grew a little bit from 2020 to 2021 because our year end was the end of October. But like, we're already now in sales where we were like 4 months into our year last year, and we're only 1 month into our year. So we're very excited. We think Rapido may end up growing by as much as 50% this year. Which would be phenomenal. And it's not that we're rushing to do stuff. These are all products that we were working on for the last 2 years that just happened to be coming to fruition. We got the PAs, we got the they're in production. The F59s are in production. The bi-level cars. There's so much stuff we have going right now. So it's exciting. It's exciting. We're our fingers are crossed that we have no more, like, everything that could go wrong. I don't know if you heard, we lost a shipment. It was stolen. After it left our warehouse, and that was found, thankfully, a few days later. But like, everything that could go wrong in 2021 has gone wrong. So we're hoping that 2022, just 1 or 2 fewer things to go wrong, and we should have a great year.
I've got one quick question. Is there a big difference between your UK market and the way you approach it versus North America and the rest of the world?
So because we're starting out, like, we've got to make more stock in the UK, and because we have to train them on the pre-orders, the same way we had to do the same thing in North America. There was very much a training period when we would have to just say, no, we can't, we're not making tons of stock. So we are making more stock in the UK than we would in North America, but that is slowly, over time, we're going to reduce that. It's a very different market there, but the thing about being there is that Bill and I know the market. And Andy and Richard, our UK team, they know the market. So we've got 4 people who know the UK market running it. And so you have to just know the differences, right? So you can't bring out a model that's designed for North America standards and bring it to the UK, is that it would derail on everybody's track, because what they do in the UK is they have an exhibition layout with very broad curves. And then once you leave the 6 foot, 8 foot, 10 foot, 12 foot section, you have a very tight curve to get back to go to a little staging yard called a fiddle yard. And so you could go with like 72-inch minimum radius on the outside of the layout and 17 and 3/4 inch minimum radius on the inside of the layout. And so you've got to make your models work with a 17 and a quarter, 17 and a half, whatever it is, R2 radius is, work with those kind of curves. You bring out Rapidos, Bud passenger cars that need really would love a 28-inch radius curve, right? You bring that out in the UK and no one can use it. So it's learning the different markets. There are some differences, but at the core, the UK guys, what you have there in the UK that you don't have here is you have even more of a percentage of guys actually run their trains. Whereas here, you have a good chunk of guys don't run their trains. They're either they're kept in boxes or they're put on the display case. The UK, you've got much more of a larger group who are actually running the trains. So the trains have to run perfectly.
All right, that's it. That's your time. That's your allotted time. Would you like to?
I've been cut off.
Yep. Would you like to wish all your Rapido customers the season's greetings?
Yes. Have a wonderful Christmas and New Year, everybody. Enjoy the best, and may 2022 be 10 times better than 2021.
Yeah, I can hardly wait for 2021 to start because of. All right. Thank you very much, Jason.
My pleasure.
Bruce?
Lionel?
Bruce.
Lionel?
This is another segment. Gordy.
Another segment?
Yeah,
How many segments?
Well, this is our Christmas. This is our Christmas special where we're doing
the Christmas special.
Where we're doing the state of the hobby.
Right.
And now we got Gordy, our buddy Gordy here. Gordy Robinson, the president of the Nmra.
Well, holy cow, are we ever privileged to have him on?
We are very privileged.
This should be just a great segment, I'm thinking.
Well, I'm not so sure, because here's my problem.
Uh-oh.
Do you remember the last time we interviewed him and I kind of spent I think we talked to him.
Can I say maybe you spent a little bit of time berating him?
Yeah, I would say I spent maybe 40% of the time just beating on him like a rented mule.
Yeah. or carpet, your call.
Yeah. But I kind of enjoyed it, to be honest with you. He's one of them youngins. He's one of them youngins. So, but I mean, of course, I always peppered that with, I am super duper proud of him. Aren't I? I'm super duper proud of you, Gordy.
Thanks, Lionel.
I am. And now he's got this whole digital magazine thing almost on the verge of happening.
Yeah, no kidding.
How cool is that?
It is absolutely frigidly cool.
And we got to thank the AML Nation for jumping in behind Gordy and throwing their support behind him, because I'm sure that was a big part of his success, getting elected. So a tip of the hat to the AML Nation.
Yes, sir.
So anyways,
it's kind of like a hee-haw salute to the AML Nation.
Yeah, that's right, a hee-haw. So anyways, Gordy, what I was about to say, and I was just saying it to Bruce, but let me bring you in on the conversation. Last time I was yelling at him for about, for argument's sake, let's say half the time I was yelling at him. And you know what, Gordy? I think because it was your first time being interviewed as president, it seemed to me like you felt like you had to justify what you were doing. And I think now, if people can't see what a spectacular job you're doing when did you officially become president?
July. 1st of July, 2nd of July, something like that.
All right, so let's say, for argument's sake, the 1st of July. So just over 5 months later, you've got this whole digital magazine thing fixed up.
Well, yeah.
Pretty much.
Well, we have a direction. Yeah,
you jumped the first hurdle.
Absolutely.
It's been approved, and now all you can do is put the plan in action. So nothing's going to slow you down. I mean, I don't know how long. I don't know how those things work. I mean, maybe you can give us a bit of background. But anyways, the reason we have you here tonight for 15 or 20 or 25 minutes is because we want you to tell us what you think the state of the hobby is. So, like right now, so how hard was it? Let's start out with this conversation. How hard was it to convince the Nmra board of directors to do this digital magazine thing?
Not difficult, but a lot of work. That was because a lot of work was put in. So in 5 months, we put in place a brand new team, new IT manager, new publications department head. We brought in SurveyMonkey as a piece of software to enable us to get feedback from members. We learned how to use it. We deployed a survey. We did consultation with the regions. We looked at prototypes. We produced a prototype. We went away and looked at alternatives because the feedback from the prototype wasn't very positive. We turned all that around, brought all that back. I would say it's probably the most amount of work that's been done on a decision at the...
We lost him, Bruce.
I think the wind blew him away.
That's it, because they knew it was a decision.
Hang on a minute there, Gordy. We lost you.
Did you lose me?
Yeah. So
we lost you.
Where were you? He was just about to say. He was just saying the prototype didn't work. So then you brought it back.
Yeah. So the prototype worked, but it wasn't as good as what our members were expecting it to be, which is fine. That was the point of doing a prototype. And so we went away, looked at alternative options. I pulled all that together into a very large paper. We had a financial analysis paper by the CFO as well. And so the actual decision wasn't difficult to make because there was a lot of evidence from members and different models, and all the feedback was gathered in. And I would argue that it was probably one of the most evidence-based decision on a very difficult topic that the Nmra boards faced for a long while, but it wasn't a difficult one for them to make because we'd done all that work. And there's still a lot of work to do on that. The team's in place now. We've now got to take on board supplier for the digital magazine, put them in hand, and I've set a very, very ambitious timescale with the team. I've told them I want it in place by the 1st of April next year, which realistically gives them 12 weeks and Christmas. So they've got from now until the 1st of January to put the contracts in place because there's like a 12-week lead time. But we will get it done, and it will be done. It will be there next year. It will definitely be there.
How many members responded on your survey when you put that out, Gordy?
Oh, only a few. I mean, it was about 3,700.
Well, that's a lot.
For an organization that size, that is an outstanding number to get that many
responses. That's what I thought, because where's the membership number right now, roughly?
About just under 16K.
Yeah, so you had just under 20% of the membership respond.
Mm-hmm. And that was yeah. And that's using the new tools that we've got. We've got the dispatch that we brought in this year as a quick way of getting messages out on our website and via email into people's mailboxes. We've now got away with that if you don't open the email a few days after, we can send the email to you again, and only to the people that haven't opened it. So it'll be if you've not been looking at your emails or whatever, it's back at the top of your mailbox kind of thing.
All right,
so
slow down. How long are you going to be president? How long is the presidential term for?
3 years.
And you can you can do 2 terms, right?
You can do as many presidential terms as you want, actually. It's the directors that can only run for 2 terms in that office.
Oh, okay. So more than likely, we will get probably, like, you need to be prepared that I plan on yelling at you the entire time you're president.
That's fine.
All right.
I think I just hope you can keep up.
I don't think I will be able to. So that'll be part of my grumbling and mumbling. I'll be like, I'll want to say slow down, but then I'll be thinking to myself, I can't say that. So it will come out as me just beating you like a redheaded stepchild. So what is this dispatch thing you just talked about?
So it's just a fancy name for an email. So it's something where we need to get information out to people really quickly. We'll do it now via an email. It's called a dispatch, and we also put that on our website. And then that means we can share the email on social media channels as well. It's just a better way to communicate with people really quickly, rather than waiting for the magazine or the e-bulletin. If there's something we need to get out there in people's faces, we'll do that.
So did the survey go out before you did the prototype of the thing, or after?
No, we did a prototype and then we put the survey out because I mean, it's like, if you were going to ask the turkeys to vote for Christmas, you would well, I believe in showing them what the outcome is. So, or turkeys for Thanksgiving. So they get a good going over in November. But that's basically what I wanted to do. I said it's absolutely not fair to expect people to blue sky think something. We need to have a prototype out there to prove it's possible, to prove we have the know-how, get it out there in front of people, show them what it looks like, and then ask their opinion on it. And then what's most important is that we listen to that feedback and that we do something about whatever it is that we've done that people don't like. And that's exactly what we've done.
Yeah.
So friggin' awesome. Just so awesome. I am so proud of you. I am so proud of you right now. You couldn't even possibly imagine. I get a big smile on my face from ear to ear, just like a proud papa.
Now the other thing with this, and I recall reading your emails and commentary on this thing, is that the way I understand it now, the digital magazine, whatever NMRA magazine, whatever it's called, will be part of the membership. Is that correct?
Yep. So it will be available to all members in the United States and Canada, and the regions worldwide. Oh, sorry. It'll be available to members in the US and Canada and worldwide members. The Australian, British, and European regions, as a regional team, their boards have the ability to opt in or opt out from it. But it will be, yes, it will be part of your membership.
Why would they opt in or opt out?
Yeah, there you go. I've seen some comments from guys in Australia, like, I'm going to have to quit and join another division so I can get this. So then I was kind of like, they're an NMRA member. How can they not get this? But then I'm NMRA Canada, which is a different kind of thing for me versus, the NMRA in the U.S. So
can I?
What are the differences, and why would somebody say in Britain or Australia, Europe, not be entitled to the same options as of getting this?
So I can explain that. So it's fundamentally, it's not on an individual member basis, it's the whole region or not. And I don't want to go into this in too much detail, but this is part of us listening and doing the right thing. The Australians asked to be opted out from this, and so we put that clause in place for them. The reason is they administer themselves very differently. They're franchisees of the NMRA, and they don't feel that the content of the NMRA magazine, which is heavily North American focused, will meet the needs of their 60% of their membership that only model Australian or British prototypes. And I can see that. It isn't going to change soon enough for them. So it's now on us, the NMRA nationally, to include broader content in the magazine to prove the value to the folks in Australia. And if they change their mind, it's a flick of a switch. So it's not a disaster for anyone. But yeah, the fundamental thing is, let's focus on the positives. It'll be part of your membership. If you currently, and this is what confuses people, because people at the moment just think the membership is $82 and that's the magazine comes with it. Actually, it's not. You already at the moment can opt out from the magazine. So if you're currently paying $82 and you choose to go digital, the exact pricing will come out in January, but you will pay less. That's the message. If you're a Life member, you'll get digital and paper. You have the option to opt out of paper, as you do now. You have two options, actually, if you're a Life member. Either we can send the magazine to a local library, your paper copy, or we can just not print it and the money stays in the Life fund. If you want to get print, it's still available, exactly the same as it is today. It'll just be an additional subscription. So when you take out your membership, you'll say, I want the print magazine.
Okay.
Done.
Now, will the digital version eventually be on the NMR website behind the members wall? It will be.
It will be, but we're looking at some technology that's available from the provider. So we listened to people's feedback and we decided to go with a provider that can give us the text manipulation. So if you want to read the magazine, I suppose I'm going to name some different magazines, but if you want to read the magazine in the same way that Railroad Model Craftsman appears digitally, which is it looks like a paper magazine, you can. If you want to read the magazine like MRH, you can, and it will manipulate it for you. You can choose. If you want to search an index of text in all the magazines you have access to, you can also do that. So we chose to go with a provider because it gave us that flexibility. And so it will be on the website, but suppose this is an AML exclusive, we'll also be launching an NMRA app.
Oh, that's
in the new year.
Ooh, that's cool.
We'll get to that, yeah.
And that will have content on it it will be a way for you to read the magazine. So, of course, with an Nmra app, you can have the magazine on your tablet or your phone, and you will be able to read it offline. Now, there's a plugin that you can edit. If you read the magazine on your computer on the Nmra website, there is a plugin available from this supplier that will allow you to read those magazines offline as long as you're reading it in Chrome, Google Chrome, which I don't think is too difficult of an ask.
Mm-hmm.
And but the app will enable me to put it into the App Store. So you'll see Nmra in the App Store, and there is the option for us to add additional content there that you don't have to be a member to view.
Okay. Now, as far as the digital version again, one of the questions or comments I know came up for the surveys, can I take this thing and download it so I can read it on my laptop or tablet or wherever I want without having to be on the web, without having some encrypted program that's going to hang on to it, and you have to use that only to read it?
I think I have the answer. I think he just said if you have Google Chrome, you can do it.
Yes, but is it an app embedded in Chrome that lets you do it, or is it something that I can download it and use a PDF reader or something like that?
No, you see,
and I'm getting at this because I know some of the British ones, they have weird formats for their digital subscriptions where you're reading it through some third-party app, and once your subscription lapses, you lose everything because you no longer have access. So that'd be the thing I would want, is that I want to get this thing, I want to save it to my computer because there may be a series in there. I want to curate the series over the years and get them all in one document, that kind of stuff, manipulate it. And if there's a way to do that's going to be beneficial versus being stuck reading it in some sort of third party that kind of restricts what you can do for it.
Okay, let me answer this question. The fundamental thing is, people told us they wanted to be able to do text manipulation and stuff.
Did that make him mad or something? Why did he leave? Yeah,
he just left it up.
So
hang on.
He's back.
He's back. You fellow that people wanted to do text manipulation.
Okay, so people wanted to be able to do text manipulation and view the articles in different ways. So the simple answer is no. You're not just going to get a PDF that you can download and save on your computer. What you're going to get is you can go into the Chrome extension. You can add a Chrome extension for free, and you can download the copies into that Chrome extension. So you need to use Chrome, but you can then open any of those magazines anytime offline, and you can manipulate them, and you can zoom in and zoom out, and you can print off specific parts of a diagram.
That's cool.
So it's way better than just having a PDF download like MRH, go to MRH and download the PDF. Way better than that because you're able to do manipulation and stuff that you can do offline.
Okay, and getting back, if there's an article I want to extract as a standalone article, can I do that? Yes,
you would just click print on the application and change it to save to PDF.
Okay.
But you would manipulate. But my argument, Bruce, is you would be manipulating that to be saved in exactly the way you want to view it.
Right. Okay.
So what that means is, if there's a diagram embedded within an article, and you want to blow up the diagram, and just save the diagram in zoomed in as part of the article, you can do that. Whereas if you took the entire page and saved that as a PDF, yourself, when you zoom in on that, the dots per inch, it's going to get blurry the more you zoom in on it. So we designed this because we know ultimately it's for modelers who are very close to being engineers, and we want to be able to zoom in on a diagram and blow up just the window of a building, and then
or if you get some weird electrical schematic and you want to what's he actually doing here, then you can zoom right in on it and understand what's going on.
Okay, absolutely. So this is the State of the Hobby podcast for the last Monday before Christmas, which is like what is that, like the 20th of December? And I think I know what the State of the Hobby is listening to this guy. Holy moly, am I ever excited!
Holy moly is good. It's a good state.
Yeah. So president of the NMRA, Gordy Robinson. Can I call you Gordy, or do I have to call you Mr. President?
You can call me Gordy.
All right, Mr. President. What is the state? Give me 5 minutes, no more than 5 minutes. I'd prefer 3. What do you think the state of the hobby is? Like, how does the future look to you?
Oh, it's so exciting. The hobby is exploding. The hobby is absolutely exploding, and we're seeing that because there's obviously global shortages of everything, particularly computer chips, which doesn't help us wanting DCC equipment and trains. But I've just been watching the pre-orders from different manufacturers the last 2 years, and I know that people overorder. The manufacturers overorder because they want some in stock. It's just sell out, sell out, sell out, sell out, and it's because there's so many more people in the hobby, and there's a lot of younger people getting into the hobby. There's a couple that I've seen just recently. I do watch what goes on the sidelines, but there's a young couple just now, recently married. They've got their first house. They're in the basement. They're in their late 20s, early 30s, and there they are building a massive HO model railroad together.
Who are they?
Oh, I can't remember.
Where just where are
HO on the HO scale? HO model railroading group.
Okay, find them and we'll interview.
Is that the one that there was a picture of her up on top of the pink foam?
Yeah, she's there playing track and putting film. Yeah, so Bruce knows them. So it's like how can I best describe it? The hobby has exponentially grown. Yes, we've lost some people through the pandemic, and I don't mean lost as in lost. I mean lost 6 feet under, and that's a tragedy, and it's not what anybody wanted to see. And we've lost, some people have lost meeting places and things like that through closures and stuff with the hobby. It's kind of that similar thing happened in 2008. We always rebound from it, but this is massive at the moment. The interest in the hobby, people getting back to basics, people doing things together, wanting to do things together as a family. Because they've been so separated, and our hobby is such a good hobby for people to do together. It's safe, as long as you don't lick the soldering iron. It's generally safe, you know. It's a very safe hobby. It's very easy to get into it. People say it's really expensive, but yeah, Affern and the others are still there with their train sets for under $100. I wrote this in my column. And
you know what? Every hobby is expensive. If you're a golfer and you want to buy the latest, greatest driver, you're gonna spend $500-600. Every hobby is expensive.
If you're into military models, you're going to buy the kit for $50 and then drop another $100 on aftermarket etches and stuff It's expensive if you want to make it. And that's one thing that irks me is all these old, and I'll call them old guys because that's who seems to do all the complaining, whining and complaining that, you know, they can't buy the $3 Athearn blue box kit and they had to build everything out of cereal boxes and balsa wood and that kind of crap.
You can still do that if you want.
Oh, you can, but they're whining and bitching. You know, it's so expensive, nobody can afford it anymore. Well, I think, you know, and I'm sorry to get it, but, you know, you look like a guy like James down at Otter Valley. Look at the amount of inventory he has in his store. There's people buying stuff.
Well, yeah, except you got to keep in mind, Bruce, that cereal's more expensive than it ever was.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Okay. All right. Well, let's I didn't want to get down the it's too expensive. What I'm trying to say is it's not. It's accessible.
It's not.
It's a perfect hobby. Like you say, here's a young couple having a blast. They're going to be doing it forever. And when they have kids, the kids are going to be none. Like it's a perfect, like you say, a perfect family hobby because, you know, it encompasses so many different facets of things you can do. You can do wiring, you can do electronics, you can do carpentry. You know, there's so much you can do in the hobby.
But I mean, the hobby. So the hobby itself, though, I think, you know, Lionel, you spoke for a long time about the getting people out of the basement and the digital revolution and all that. And I think early 2020, it hit us like a sledgehammer. The digital transformation in the world in the early first quarter one of 2020 was exponential. And what I hear now from modelers as I talk to them is that people feel they've never been able to be as the president of the Nmra has never been as accessible. The president of the Nmra for over 20 years has had email. The difference is I just turn up now to your division meeting and I talk to members online, and the members online tell me that they've got friendships and memberships of model railroad clubs around the world that they never would have, just even 2 years ago, wouldn't have even entered someone's head.
I think the sledgehammer hit before COVID came. I think it was absolute perfect timing. Like you say, Gordy, let's not ignore the fact that there's been a lot of suffering across the globe, and many, many people have suffered tragic losses, whether it's through human loss or through a job loss or financial loss. There's a lot of people that have really, really suffered, and we're not ignoring any of that. I just believe that the sledgehammer started falling just before. I think this has been coming now for 3 or 4 years, and this is just a happenstance that worked in perfectly. Now we got to stop, but after we do this, I have a great subject I want to talk to you about. And we'll put it on us. I'll start right here because Bruce, I got 2 points I want to make here. So thank you, Gordy, but I have 2 points I want to make here, Bruce.
Okay. Yes.
You know what the hobby needs now is a well-produced podcast.
Yes.
With hosted by somebody of some sort of intelligence.
Right.
That's what we need now. If we can find that guy.
We just find that guy, we're laughing.
We'll be laughing. And finally, Gordy, you're the president now. There's a lot of responsibility. You're responsible for everything that happens in the NMRA, past and present. I want to know, what are your plans for helping those who in the 1986 NMRA convention in Boston, when the train show was a complete disaster? Are you going to somehow the vendors and manufacturers who attended that show with only 700? What are you going to do for these people as far as helping them out?
Well, I think that actually we can owe all credit to this to my father, because I was conceived in 1986 about the same time as that disaster. So I believe, on reflection, that we could thank my father for that. And the work that we will do in the next 2 to 3 years as I am president of the NMRA will help in some way to offset the pain and suffering of only 700 people attending the National Train Show in 1986.
Well, that's a good start. But I'm not going to let go of that one. I feel like it's as a president, you have to take responsibility. And you know what else? As we close this up, we were doing fans of the old AML there a few nights ago. Parts 45A and 45B.
Yes, a two-parter.
The Queso Cowboy, Tom Jacobs, the Queso Cowboy, when we started talking about the digital magazine, he says, I think I'm going to join now. And Hard Part, Kevin Marks, a.k.a. Hard Part, he said the same thing. He's thinking of joining up now. What you're doing is making a huge difference. So I can tell you what the future of the hobby is with you in charge. It's as bright as a meteor, a mile-wide meteor hurtling itself towards the Earth.
Well, I appreciate that, but I hope it's not happening because I know too many people that want to get their layouts finished.
Exactly. Well, it's going to be a glancing blow. Anyways, Gordy, I think we're stopped now, Bruce, because we got other people. We want to talk to.
Yes.
All right.
Otherwise, the Christmas will be a three-parter.
Exactly. Thanks, Gordy.
Gordy, thanks very much. Appreciate everything you're doing. Have a safe and happy holiday.
I wish everybody a happy Christmas as the NMRA president. This is your first chance in the history of the Gordy Robinson saga. This is your first chance as the NMRA president to wish the AML Nation Merry Christmas.
Well, Merry Christmas and a happy, happy New Year and a prosperous 2022 to the AML Nation.
All right.
So that was it. So that's it. I think that went really well. It was Tony Cook, followed by Jason Shron, followed by Gordy Robinson, and I'll let you in on a secret. After that interview with Gordy Robinson, I was so excited about what he said about community that we ended up, me and Bruce and Gordy did a 42-minute segment just talking about the community of model railroading and the future of the hobby through community. And I mean, he is so stoked about that, and I am so. He got me so excited about the community of model railroading. I think that you and I and 2 or 3 other AML regulars are going to have a discussion about that, because I think that is so important to the future of this hobby, more than ever before. I am so stoked about that stuff.
It's a thrill, and you and I have been talking about community since I've been on the podcast. That's one of the first things we talked about. My first, or maybe even my second interview. The railroad, it's not one person. Railroading is not ever done by yourself. You're always depending on somebody else. And so it follows that as we model the prototype, that we would also be able to rely on people to help us move in the right direction. So Gordy's 100% correct. And what I think is really exceptional is that when you look at model railroading as a hobby that largely for decades has been practiced, a couple of lone wolves in their basements, and maybe they get together in RPM every once in a while, or they saw each other at a train show, or talk on the phone or what have you. The way that I met Jack and Mark and my early influences in model railroading, it was very happenstance. You met him at school. You see him at an occasional train show. Well, what's changing and what's so exciting is that the community side of model railroading is suddenly I think it's the fastest growing part, just anecdotally. While the world needs more and more community, while the world is struggling with a sense of community, and all you see in the news is people tearing stuff down and people angry about this or rejecting that, or, all of this frustration and dark energy. And then you got the model railroading world where everybody's coming together and everything's getting better. Well, do you think there might be a square peg for that square hole? I wonder if some of what we're going through here, the metamorphosis of the hobby, to use that word again, look, this may fill a need that is only just becoming really apparent to everyone, not just model railroaders.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you and I have had discussions off the air about that. I feel like this is important. I feel like of all the stuff I've ever done in model railroading, this is one of the most important things I've done in my life is help create the AML Nation, because it just feels like everybody is Gordy is so excited about the hobby. And then when we were talking to Joe Fugate about Christmas and the state of the hobby, he mentioned there are so many younger people in the hobby now, and they've always been there. They just had no way to connect.
Correct.
Can you imagine if you and I were, 15 and 16 or 13 and 14 years old, and we found each other on Facebook at that age, and we both had the interest in model railroading? Can you imagine the lifelong friendship we would have created from that? It's staggering to even think about.
It's correct. And when you look at some of these guys, New Jersey's loaded with them, and it's a populated place, but there are multiple groups online, and these guys get together offline as well. And they go out rail fanning, and they compare model train notes, and they, go to concerts, and they do things that are outside the hobby as well. And you can tell it's already growing to be lifelong friends. And, the best is yet to come for this stuff. And model railroading has a chance to really be one of the drivers, I think, of the sense of community among hobbyists going forward. And I think it can grow. People are starting to gravitate and understand the nostalgia of the railroad. It's like that BNSF video I sent you.
Yeah, let's talk about that. We're going to do a whole podcast about that.
That is, from what I can tell, BNSF is working with the IMAX group, the Panoramic Theater Experience group, to put together a video about loving trains and working for the railroad. I mean, for lack of anything else, it's just a trailer.
Was that just a trailer?
That's just the trailer.
Oh my God. It blew my socks off.
The rest is coming soon. This is the first 3 or 4 minute video I've seen that so clearly articulates why I work for the railroad.
It blew my socks off. It's on. I'll put a link. I'll put a link. I'll put a link on the website for that thing. I'll put a link for that little video. It was like a 3 or 4 minute video, and you sent it to me.
Just a teaser. Yeah, it's a Vimeo thing. I got it from a couple of my railfan friends and model railroad friends through Facebook. And then Tony Custer sent it to me as well.
Wow. It's just because to me, I'm sorry, I cut you off again there.
No, do it. I've been cutting you off too. I just don't apologize for it.
Yeah. But to me, what it said was the railroad, the full-size railroad, the one-to-one railroad, the BNSF, is going to acknowledge the fact that its future lies in train enthusiasts. They've come out from behind the curtain and said, you know what? There is a whole bunch of people that are lifelong train enthusiasts that would make great employees.
And I think you're seeing, look, these things ebb and flow. So this is not to say that all of a sudden it's a new world and everybody's happy to see rail fans, because Norfolk Southern did this in 2012, and then the whole world changed with this precision scheduled railroading, which has been cutting the guts out of these big railroads for 4 or 5 years now. But so I mean, again, it ebbs and it flows. But there is no question that you're right. BNSF doing something on this scale. I mean, IMAX movies are not cheap to make, and they've got cameras mounted on the trucks of a Dash 9 or a Gevo. It's 70 miles an hour with the train coming up alongside it, where you see the roller bearings spinning. And me and roller bearings. I love this. They have, they show you the guts of the 4449, which is that awesome GS4 Southern Pacific Daylight steam engine that's up in Portland, Oregon. They talk about, you see some employees, and it starts off with the kids playing with standard gauge trains. And he really connects the energy of what we feel in model railroading and the community, because it's a whole group of kids. And I see it with my boys. I see it with Teddy and Pete. Like, they love to play off each other when they're doing their train things, and translates that into going to work for the greatest layout in the world. And it like shifts in this unbelievable drone view at night of like Global One in Chicago, or it might be Cicero because it's the BNSF. But in any case, it's one of these gigantic container yards, Willow Springs or something like that. And it's a seamless production. It's beautiful. So I'm excited about it. But this is what I'm saying, is that maybe we're at the cusp of the end of illusion that model railroading is this little niche hobby that nobody knows about.
Yeah, I think that's a great statement. I think that's what I've been trying to say for the last 3 or 4 years. I believe we're at the end of that. I believe I believe the wave is about to break, where model railroading becomes mainstream. And not every person on the planet's going to love model railroading. It's going to be a certain segment of the population, but that hobby is going to be recognized as something that many, many people enjoy. It's going to be the same as it's always been. It's like I talk about Mike Hauk and I'm still struggling, Mike, with your last name. I don't know why. It's Hauk, and I think it's Hauk, but I don't know why. I'm going to get Mike back. I got to get Mike back on here. But I'm excited to go visit him and see his layout. And I mean, it takes in, the hobby is about to break out of the wave is about to break out, and all these people that know each other are going to be the leaders of finding all the other people that want to be. This hobby is going to absolutely it's going to absolutely explode, and we're all going to be covered with model railroad goo. Because what's so great about this hobby is, I was talking to a fella, we've talked about him, Chris Palmieri, who started this company, Home Shops, where he offers tangent cars painted for freelance railroads. And he doesn't have a layout, but he has an entire roster. He has a website about his Meridian Speedway freelance railroad. And there's places in this hobby where you can have a 1 foot by 4 foot shelf layout and be just as happy as the guy with the basement empire.
I agree.
Or just be a guy that builds structures. This hobby has so many spots for it. This is like one of the largest parking lots in the world. You can end up you can be the guy that just has a little pup tent and park right beside the guy with the Prevost bus, and be just, the two of you can be just as happy together. It's this hobby is gonna. I am so annoyed that I'm not 37, because I think the best. I'm jealous.
Well,
I'm jealous of you, Dave. I think I can't, Uncle Dave. I'm really jealous of you because you're younger than me.
Well, I think that's an age-old human realization. I mean, I'm jealous of you because you're older than me and you remember stuff from the early 80s and the late 70s when I thought the coolest railroading was going on, Yeah. But on the same level, like, there's a lot of stuff today that's a lot better than that. So we don't get to choose that stuff. What we do get to choose is what we do with the time that comes to us and how we treat other people. And the coming together, the great community, the turning of the guard, where you have some younger enthusiasm at places like the Nmra, at White River Productions, and at Kalmbach. I mean, yes, you've got some of the old guard at all those spots too, But that's the whole point. It's the balance between those two things that really drives us forward in an exponential manner. And we heard it from Tony Custer, some of the things he's excited about a few months ago. This is, there's one of the best known names in the hobby. I mean, somebody that's touched the whole hobby, as we heard again and again. And he's excited about some new stuff. I mean, he's seen everything, and he's excited about some of the new stuff. What does that tell you?
Yeah, exactly. This is I think I read or heard, I think model railroaders have a tendency to live longer because they've always got something they're interested in.
When was the last time you were bored?
Yeah.
I have not been bored in years.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I forced myself to slow down. I'm going to go upstairs and look at the Christmas tree now. Sit back and enjoy and reflect. I put a Facebook post up about that a couple days ago. You just have to force yourself late at night when there's a little bit of quiet to put some Christmas tunes on, whatever you enjoy, and just sit and take a break. And whether you're a Christmas person or a Hanukkah person, whether you do a menorah or no lights at all, or there's other holidays, of course. I mean, just take time to just think about it, consider it, reflect on it for a few minutes.
Can I use that picture you took of you and your family you guys have something called Dickens Night? I thought it was the greatest picture that has ever been taken. I just love that. I'm
glad you like it. That's great.
I love that picture so much. I'm going to make at least an 8x10, maybe a bit bigger. Frame it and put it on my wall.
Oh, thank you. No, it's just my family and I hamming it up for this little costume party we do at Christmas time. Yeah,
but your wife looks beautiful and prim and proper, and your kids look like they're very well behaved and all. And you look like you're standing there and you're the man of the family, and you got this goofy grin on your face, and it looks like every Norman Rockwell photo that I've ever seen in my life. And you just have the perfect look on your face.
I love it. Good. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it just says everything about Christmas. And how did you possibly, as the creepy train guy, get Kristen to ever even talk to you? That's what I want to know.
It's one of many questions in life.
All right. So we're running out of time now. So very quickly, tell us what's happening in the Abelys family for Christmas. Are you hoping to get something from Santa?
I will likely get some anthracite coal and some smiles, maybe a little bit of beer, and maybe even the occasional train. Tony Cook has helped out with that. I've been helping to do some reviews for his magazine going forward, which is very exciting. So I've been enjoying that process. And this year's been an increasing coming together. As COVID opens up, operating sessions are starting again. And it's such a wonderful thing to get back and operate some model railroads around the community and even to travel a little bit. But we're doing it now with a little more appreciation than I think we did before. Now we know it can go away. And so I think that there's a humility to it, and there's a openness to it. And certainly here on the Onondaga Cutoff, I'm very excited to get back to some operations. We have some new young faces. My sons have both run some trains during operating sessions this fall. So that's a very new thing for me.
Are they interested at all, or
Teddy and Pete are in over their heads already? It's great.
Oh, really? They
love it, and I make it available to them, and some of it's just time with Dad, But I come home and the Lionel trains on their little layout are always at a different spot every day.
Oh yeah.
And the cars have been reorganized, and the wooden trains have a new main line with a different passing siding. And so they have the Brio trains on the, Brio, and it's a bunch of manufacturers, but they are always playing with that. And they have train books now, and they want me to read train books to them when I go to bed. So they have got it. They have got it at this point, and I think it's wonderful. It makes me smile.
It'd be interesting to see if one of them starts becoming more interested than the other, because that's quite possible, because it's quite possible that one just won't ever really get into the whole operations thing and be, more inclined to do something else. I mean, so that's it'll be fun to see as they grow up, to see which direction they go.
Absolutely. But as the hobby comes along, it's this, they're very young, but there is a new generation of people that's interested in operating.
Well, sure.
And all of them are interested in signals. All of them are interested in radio communications, because it's what they grew up around.
Dave, nobody's interested in signals. You're the only one in.
There's a handful of us.
Yeah, try writing a book and seeing if anybody buys it.
I don't know. I don't know if I don't know if that would really go over that well.
Okay, so have you? So
Christmas is coming together. We have our tree up. The Lionel trains are around the base of the tree as God intended. I have the time off this year between Christmas and New Year's, which is a rarity on the railroad, but I was able to finagle that with my coworkers to have some time off then around the holiday to spend with the family. So that'll be a lot of fun. And it's an exciting time. I mean, the holidays are always a busy time, but as I get older, I'm forcing myself to slow down a little bit and just appreciate the darkness of the season, the lights, that people put out there to brighten that up a little bit. And just to be more and more grateful for the things that we do have. It's a unbelievable time to be in model railroading. Unbelievable. It's the best it's been, and it's getting better.
Yeah. So I'm assuming probably your wife Kristen is probably in charge pretty much of all the Christmas gifts for the kids, and
she handles most of it. Although I've taken a greater role on this year. Mostly because of the boys with their railroad hobbies. Their Christmas lists were almost all trains. And so I've been in charge of negotiating with Santa to make sure that everything works out according to plan, shall we say.
They're all at the perfect age. I bet you Santa's the real deal well, of course they know that Santa's the real deal.
Santa's the real deal. You know what's the real deal about Santa is the magic.
Yeah. And
this is what everybody says, oh, my kid doesn't believe anymore. Well, what does he not believe in?
Yeah, I don't.
If your kid doesn't believe that there is magic in this world, doesn't believe that there's a higher concord, that there's something greater to be a part of, then that's something we all as adults have a responsibility to change, because there is a higher concord. There's no question that working together is greater than the individual parts. A collective is always going to come up with something. Yeah, it's going to be frustrating and it's going to be nitty gritty, but you're going to come out with something that really is truly special. That's the nature of life. It's the nature of railroading. It's the nature of model railroading. And we're seeing that more and more. So, as far as I'm concerned, I still believe.
Me too.
Because it's about the magic.
What's there not to believe in? All right. So, but what I was leading up to is you're not screwing up buying up for your wife, right? Have you got some nice stuff for your wife?
I do. I'm excited.
Good.
I have some very fun things for her, including an experience.
Oh, an experience.
We're gonna go. She doesn't know this, but we're gonna go to the city and we're gonna have a wonderful celebration. It should be a lot of fun. It should be a lot of fun.
If you want to give your wife an experience, have me over for dinner. That'll be an experience for her.
I'm sure it will.
All right.
Awesome.
All right. So let's wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Well, happy holidays to everybody. Happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, Merry Christmas. May all of you have a wonderful new year, and may the best be yet to come.
Absolutely. So we have an email address, Modeler's Life. No, it's not. It's modeler'slife@gmail.com.
I made that mistake before. Yes.
I make that mistake all the time. It's modelers with one L like Conrail, not two L's like... there's got to be a railroad with Valley. What's a railroad that has two L's in it?
Lehigh Valley. Actually, that's three L's.
Well, yeah, but that's cool. All right, it's
the Valley Railroad. No, that's got three L's.
How about this?
Two is tough, huh?
It's modeler'slife@gmail.com. That's modelers with one L like Lehigh, not two L's like Valley.
There you go. See, you must have done this before.
Yeah, and then if you go to our website, amodelerslife.com, and click on the picture of the moderately agitated mailboy in a particularly agitated state, boom, the email comes up automatically, and all you got to do is fill in the text. Very easy to do. And also on the other thing is, if you want any merchandise, you just go to Midwest Model Railroad, and their URL is midwestmodelrr.com. And you click on the AML link, and boom, you're in a wonderland of Modeler's Life merchandise. I don't know why I'm stumbling over. I don't know. I'm thinking you've talked too long. That's what it is. I'm thinking about this podcast is bizarre. Like I was thinking the other.
Yes. I think you're right.
It is because the more people I connect with, the more people. The other day, I had sent Roger Coleman because I want to do a podcast with you and Roger Coleman and somebody else about rail fanning and being a photographing trains because Roger is new to the hobby, relatively new to the hobby, and he's become an avid rail fan and photographer, and posts a lot of pictures to the fans page. And I thought, well, he'd be perfect to have on. You know, he's the new guy. You're the veteran, and we got lots of other people in the fans AML Nation that we could have somebody else come on and have a great discussion about rail fanning and rail photography.
I agree.
But that was like I sent him the headset like 4 months ago, and I was like, I haven't got around to it yet.
It's there's lots of good stuff going on.
Oh my goodness!
It's kind of hard to stay up with it. It's great.
Well, it's hard to fit it all into 2 podcasts a week. That's the one thing. If you want to, I mean, come on. It's a podcast about model railroading, which we think is a niche hobby, which is turning out to be not the case. And we're doing 3 and 4 hours worth of podcasting a week, and it's not even close to enough. Doesn't even scratch the surface.
All true.
I think we've done everything. Even
Good
if we.
stuff.
Merry Christmas. This is the last episode of 2021 before Christmas. Merry Christmas. Next week we get to hear you and I talking about, I forget what we talked about. Oh yeah, your trip out to, you went to see Mike Burgett and did some layouts and a whole bunch.
Oh, it was great. Yep.
And then, and the day before that, on the next Monday, it's me and Tony Cook. Because I decide every year, the week between Christmas and New Year's, I'm thinking, do I need to do a podcast, a model railroad podcast? And so this year it was me and Tony talking about Christmas episodes on TV. Because we love talking TV, so that's what we did. That's it, buddy. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Remember, a Modeler's Life podcast is considered marginally adequate by 6 out of 10
Union Pacific modelers.
Melakalikimaka is the thing to say on a bright Hawaiian Christmas day. That's the island greeting that we'll send to you from the land where palm trees sway. Here we know that Christmas will be green and bright. The sun to shine by day and all the stars at night. Melakalikimaka is Hawaii's way to say Merry Christmas to you.
While in Busted Knuckle, guests of a Modeler's Life podcast stay at the Casa del Sol Motor Court and Inn, where late-night dancing at the Rumba Room is a magical event to be experienced.
It's another Lincoln Homer.
Wow, that kind of came out of left field.
Well, yeah.
Why Union Pacific?
Well, because I'm modeling an SD60M right now from Athearn Genesis, and we briefly discussed it, and it's a work in progress, and it's right in front of me here on the workbench. It's beautiful.
Okay.